You're listening to the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Now then, moving on, as we progress through this preview, as I said earlier, it's going to be a long preview in terms of previewing all the 20 teams and talking about them, so do bear with us. We are getting through it. So let's talk about the full member countries in this T20 World Cup for 2024 and talk about their chances of winning the T20 World Cup for 2024. So we'll go through and talk about the full member countries from each group, Group A, Group B, Group C, and Group D, and talk about their squads and talk about their chances. So first of all, we'll start off with Group A. So we'll talk about India, Pakistan, and Ireland in Group A, the full member countries. First of all, we'll talk about India. And we'll talk about India and their chances of winning this T20 World Cup potentially. So their captain is Rohit Sharma. India have won a T20 World Cup before. That was back in 2007. And in the last T20 World Cup in 2022, they were the semi-finalists and didn't pretty much have a great semi-final result. Obviously, they lost to England quite badly in the semi-final by 10 wickets. And then England went on to win the final against Pakistan. So for India, big pressure on them. As always with India, when they go into T20 World Cups or 50-over World Cups or any tournament or any series around the world, there's always tremendous pressure on them. They have a strong squad full of match winners. All of them have played the IPL recently. All of them have got a bit of game time underneath their belt. They're all capable T20 players. They have performed well in the format over the years. But the question is, can they finally win a T20 World Cup or an ICC event of some sort? That is the big question for India. And the pressure is on following following the Cricket World Cup final last year against Australia, where they lost badly in the final. The pressure is on for them to perform in this T20 World Cup. It really is. Obviously, what these players have done in the IPL, that won't quite translate to the T20 World Cup. We know the IPL this year was a bit different in terms of the flat pitches, high run scoring, and teams chasing, big totals that seemed impossible but were achievable, especially with the conditions in the IPL this year with the pitches. So that doesn't really translate into this T20 World Cup in the Caribbean and the USA. The pitches in the USA are a bit of a mystery. We don't know how they're going to quite play out. And the pitches in the Caribbean, as we know, in the West Indies, they do take a bit of turn and spin, and they are slow. They're not fast, they're not pacey. They are a bit slow and low. So for India, the big challenge for them is to try and perform well as a team and as a collective, and hopefully, they can finally break that hoodoo of winning an ICC event, because it has been a long time coming. The last event they won was the Champions Trophy in 2013. So it's been a long time since they've won an ICC event. And also, it's been a long time since they won a T20 World Cup, not since the first one in 2007. Since then, they've been runners-up and they've been in a semi-final or two, but they haven't got the results that they would have liked. As I said, they've got a squad full of match winners. You have a look at their squad. Rohit Sharma can be destructive. Suryakumar Yadav, Rishabh Pant, Jaiswal, Kohli, Jadeja, Patel, Kuldeep Yadav, Chahal, Bumrah, Siraj with the ball, Hardik Pandya. So they've got a really good squad that's covering all bases. It's just whether or not they can, put it all together. That's the big question. You've got to put it all together into a complete performance for India. They need to find a way to overcome pressure in big games. So you would expect India to pretty much cruise through Group A. I think they'll probably finish on top. They've got Pakistan, Ireland, USA, and Canada. You would think they'll win all those games and finish on top of the group. They'll go through to the Super 8s, no problems. But once they get into the Super 8s, that's where the pressure will be on, in terms that, in the Super 8s, you only got 3 games because there's 4 teams in each of the 2 groups. You can't play against yourself, obviously. So there's only 3 games that you have to try and win to go through to the semi-finals. And that's where the pressure will be on for India. And that will be telling whether or not they're capable and whether or not they're up for the challenge and up for it in terms of going to go all the way to win this tournament. Obviously, India are one of the favourites to win. I don't think anyone has tipped against them. But in terms of that sort of pressure and what's happened before in World Cups, that does get to you and it does play on your mind. So they will need to find ways to overcome that. They'll need to find ways to rally around each other. They've got a team that's very talented, as I mentioned before. Rohit Sharma will be important as captain. Obviously, leading from the front, he's got to do well there. And obviously, in terms of them performing as well as individuals. But with India, they are more than capable of winning. They've got a team that can do it. The biggest question is, do they have that belief? Do they have the belief? Can they silence the critics? Can they silence the noise that's coming from the outside in terms of it's India? They're one of the favourites, but every time India's tagged as one of the favourites, they don't do so well. And I suppose that's the thing. If you are a cricketer from India, of course, you have big pressure. There's over 1 billion people who are supporting the team and who want the team to do well. And with that comes pressure. So you've got to try and handle that in the best possible way you can. But they're definitely one of the favourites, India. They'll definitely feature in the latter stage of the tournament, Super 8s and maybe semi-finals. It's just a question of whether or not they can actually overcome that hurdle and finally get the job done and do it. Obviously, their batting will be very destructive. The likes of Rohit Sharma, Jaiswal, he's been a revolution. Kohli, the veteran, Suryakumar Yadav, Rishabh Pant, and the like. Their bowling attack, their spinners will be very effective in the Caribbean. Jadeja, Patel, Kuldeep Yadav, Chahal, Arshdeep Singh has done pretty well since he's come into the fold. Bumrah and Mohammad Siraj. So, as I said, they've got a team that's covering all bases. It's just whether or not they can put a complete performance together, get the job done against teams like Australia or England, and try and overcome the pressure in semi-finals and finals to do it. Obviously, they made it to the 50-over World Cup final last year. Unfortunately, fell at the last hurdle against Australia, which was a magnificent performance. So for India, they'll have that belief knowing that, okay, it's a different format, but, we made it to the 50-over World Cup final last year. We've got the belief that we can do it again in this T20 World Cup in 2024. It's just whether or not they can, put a complete performance together. So I think all eyes will be on India, pressure on them, but you would think that they should be able to, make their way to the back half of the tournament and potentially win it. So we'll have to wait and see for India there. But as I said, they've got a pretty good team. They've got players who are capable. It's just whether or not they've got that belief that they can do it. Hi, everyone. Make sure you subscribe to the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast YouTube channel and click the bell so you don't miss out on all our episodes and live streams from the ICC T20 World Cup for 2024. If you're watching or listening to this episode on YouTube, let us know in the comments your thoughts on how India will go in this ICC T20 World Cup for 2024. We would love to hear what you have to say.